Welcome to the Vincent CROWLEY channel. Over 40 years ago, in 1983, a metal band emerged from Brandon, Florida, named Nasty Savage, and the wage of mayhem began. I am very honored today to have the nasty one here himself, Mr. Ronnie Galletti, aka Nasty Ronnie. How you doing today, brother?
Man, it's good to be here, man. I really appreciate the time you're giving us. 40 years. It seems like
Yes,
it's just flashed by, man, in an instant. And we got to make the most of what we have as we have it.
absolutely. One great thing is you guys and you in general too inspired me to do music. I mean, believe it or not, when I was 17, Ben Meyer took me over to your house to buy Nasty Savage stuff, like when I lived in Tampa. You know, uh Nasty Savage, Sabotage. You guys were the core of metal in this community before the death metal thing even happened. And some people forget that. And you've influenced so many bands and stuff. I mean, I remember seeing a show, I think it was at Rocky Point. I saw Executioner, before they were Obituary, when Don Tardy had, short hair, and I saw Hell Witch and all these beginning bands that, opened for you guys. How's it feel knowing that you were like the stirred the pot to get this all going?
Well, it's an honor when you look back at things like that. But back then, I mean, we didn't know anything but to just create this band and and do whatever was natural, because we didn't have anybody to follow. I mean, Sabotage was Avatar, and then they put out their album. There was a band called Vengeance and a band called Argus that was I was inspired by, because Argus would get they talked to us and a guy named Divanoy, and we'd show him all the new age British heavy metal records that we were collecting at the time, Angel Witch, or, Holocaust and different bands, Venom, and they'd kind of pick a couple of those songs to play. So, man, that was like so cool that we'd go see them and headbang and, start this kind of metal feeling that we were into. And another band, Vengeance, was playing some heavy stuff at the time. And I never really thought about being in a band. And then I had an opportunity because someone told me that this band was looking for a singer. And what I would do in my room, I would like play Iron Maiden, and I had two rock boxes, and I'd play one and then I'd record on the other and I'd sing in the middle. So I'd sing over it. And I was just like, I always wanted to be like a guy on stage. I was inspired by, people even like Elvis Presley or Jim Morrison or the Beatles, because my sisters used to listen to the Beatles a lot. So my buddy, a friend of mine, was at the day, goes, "Hey man, I know this band is looking for a singer. You should go try out." So I was actually with my wife one day, which was my girlfriend at the time. We were driving in her Pinto, and I said, "Pull over here. I'm going to try out for this band." And it was a band called Nightmare, and it was Ben Meyer, Fred Dregeshin, and Craig Huffman. And so I went in there really nervous, and I sang a couple of Iron Maiden songs, and I left. I was like, "Okay, see you later." And they go, "Okay, we'll get back with you." And then I never heard anything back from these guys. And like a week went by, and another week went by, and I'm like, "Oh shit." So I was at a keg party, and I saw the guys. And I'm like, I went right up to them and said, "Dude, do you guys want me to be your singer or not?" And they go, "Yeah, we do." I go, "I'll be over Monday with a game plan." And they're like, "Okay." So I go over to the Jam House, and it was in Brandon off of Kingsway. And I go in there, and there's all these people partying, laying around and hanging out, the party room, band room. And I said, "Everybody out of the house right now except the band members." And they're like, "Who the hell is this guy?" I go, "No, everybody out now." And they like looked at me like, "Okay, this guy's pretty serious." So they got out, they left. I said, "Okay, guys, sit down." on the floor, let's talk about this. I said, this is the name of the band is Nasty Savage. I am Nasty Ronnie. I'm going to be the wildest singer ever. I mean, I got this vision and I'm going to make a plan and we're going to take care of business. I said, within 1 year, our goal should be to have a record deal, to be getting fan mail from all over the world, and actually touring and doing something. And we're going to do a demo tape. I came up with this concept called Wage of Mayhem demo tape. And I go, we're going to save our money. We're going to record this stuff. We're going to do this. Is everybody in? And they go, hell yeah, let's do it. So within 1 year, all that shit happened. But, because we had to take care of business. But I figured if I'm going to do this, I'm going to make this shit happen because, being a singer, I'm not really a real musician or anything. I'm just a singer. Really, I'm not even a singer. I just play when on stage. And that's just my concept. And everybody was down with it. We did the demo and we made an impact, and anything you do in life, people, you make an impact. Take care of business, produce, because, joy and sorrow today and tomorrow. What greater crime than the loss of time? And that's some lyrics in a new song for the Jeopardy Room album. But it goes back to what I was doing back then. So of course we just started playing and we just were like over the top. Like, how are we going to make a quick impact? The first gig that we played, we went and stole a bunch of building supplies and wood and put it on top of Fred's van, plywood. Big old thick piece of plywood. He tied it onto the van, took it to this guy, Tom Hepner's house. His parents were out of town here in Brandon in the suburban, in a neighborhood, right? So he goes, yeah, come play at my house. I can pay you $40. And we go, $40? Let's do it. So we go and set up a stage. We built a stage. We do this concert and there's about 50, 60 people come. And it's the first time we're ever playing. So, of course, the police come, the sheriff's department coming about within 3 or 4 songs. So as soon as the police get there and they come right up to the stage, we're real quiet. We stop and then we play Judas Priest Breaking the Law. So everybody there were like going, man, look at these guys. They're the anarchy. They're showing the police, man. This is cool. And then the cops said, shut it down. You're done. They made an announcement. They took the mic and said, everybody disperse. Then they left and we started playing again. And the second set after they left, a buddy of mine just happened to have a Harley parked on the street. So I got on his Harley and I rode it right through the crowd, right up to the front of the stage. And they all part. I jumped on stage. We started playing again. I had TV sets already on the very first one, but I was smashing them with a sledgehammer. And it was just this major impact. The cops and like 3 squad cars came up and really shut us down. So that was our first event. And after that, I think it spread like wildfire. Like, oh my God, I saw this band. They were like, yeah. So then we just had to keep, the next time was the next step and the next step. And it was really a marketing plan of shock, dismay, and get people's attention fast. And then that's how these other bands and these young kids that were watching us, and they were like going, damn, I want to do this. I want to be in a band. And that's how people like Obituary or DEICIDE, Morbid Angel, all these guys were around at that time, and many others. So we did inspire them. But what happened is, like, we were the first wave. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but we were like the first wave of metal that, there was no rules, man. We didn't have people to open up for. We were making concerts in cow pastures, keg parties, at people's houses. So these guys were so inspired that they created the next wave. And that next wave, years later, became that death metal scene that really made a mark on the world, bigger than what Nasty Savage ever really did, because it was into the 80s, in the later 80s, it was California, San Francisco, then it was New York, with Anthrax, Metallica, Exodus, and those bands, and we were right there.
Right.
And then the death metal scene came in, man, and I was proud that these guys were flying that flag for Florida, and Chuck from Death and Rick Ross came to one of our shows with these guys from Guillotine Magazine, a fanzine, at London Victory Club. And they were headbanging and thrashing on the front of the stage where Chuck even cut his forehead and was bleeding. And they were diehard Savage fans. They were impacted. They were impacted by what we were doing, the mayhem. That made those guys create mayhemic music to another degree. And with what was going on with Possessed or Venom, I think Black Sabbath really was the first death metal. And then it went into Venom, and then, Possessed, Death. And all of a sudden it just lit on fire. Chuck, I remember they came to our practice one day and he goes, "Hey, let me show you what we're playing." And they played this music. I was going, "That shit's heavy, dude." And then his vocals, and then another story is I'm at home at my parents' house in Brandon, and my mom says, "Hey, there's two boys at the door. They want to talk to you." I'm like, "Okay." So I go up there, these two kids sitting on bicycles with the banana seats and the sissy bars and the handle, the high handlebars and shit. And they go, "Are you Nasty Ronnie?" I go, "Yeah." And they says, "Well, we're John and Donald Tardy, and we want to know how to start a band." I'm like,
Right.
dude, you guys are brilliant, man. I said, "You searched out a person that was like key to marketing metal. That's how smart these dudes were." I
Yeah.
said, "Man, I love what you just did." I said, "Let's go to Lithia Springs." I had a Chevelle. I said, "Get in my car. Let's go to Lithia Springs. We'll throw the Frisbee for about 5 hours and we'll talk about getting you guys rolling." And, I'm really proud of that because, I mean, we did it for ourselves, but I think what we created on Impact, I hear it all the time, and I'm proud of that. But I'm really proud of that they took the flag and carried it to the next level. And DEICIDE, Morbid Angel, Death, Obituary. Speaking of Obituary, they started out as executioner, but those guys are such hardcore business guys and take care of business and so much respect their work ethic, and that's what I'm really proud of is how whatever we created, it took it to another level with the next level. And I remember seeing these kids at our shows, and now they're like superstars, way bigger than we'll ever be. So it's really awesome, really awesome. Great question.
Yeah. Obituary has turned out to be, I honestly, I couldn't imagine how big they would have gotten. And luckily, my old band Asheron, we did a small mini tour in Brazil with them. Great guys, Trevor, everybody. It's just like you can tell they still love playing that music. But they are smart businessmen. That's what's cool about everything. And yeah, I just remember those early Executioner days, and they were kids. And in fact, funny thing is, Ben Meyer took me to a party at Trevor's house when his parents were gone. I don't know if you remember, you've probably been to many parties, but there were a lot of people showed up and everybody's having a good time. And you found some like Dokken albums or something, and you and Trevor started laughing. You're like, "What shit?" And the Dokken albums start breaking and shit. And everybody started. It was fucking great, man. I just remember that party.
Man, I look back at some of that stuff, and when we used to on stage, I used to bring a bunch of records and break them, and different bands and stuff. And I'm like, damn, how stupid was I back then to really do that? Because each band, you realize how much time and effort and planning it takes to do any kind of recording, and in your craft. And it's like in the old days, I was going, "Death to posers, posers must die," and that's just part of growing and the immaturity that I had back then. I just thought that was the way to be. and it did inspire, influence people. It was kind of cool. But when I look back at some of that, I go, man, what was I thinking? But that was like who we were back then. It's like when we wrote songs. My mentality of writing songs back then has changed a lot from
Hmm.
now to then, from then to now. And you just grow as a person and as a musician, and you look back and it's really funny stuff, and people really live by some of that, and so
Yeah.
sometimes what you inspire is something you have to live with forever. And you got to kind of know the boundaries, but back then there was no boundaries, man.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people had, it was we had this new music that was more aggressive. It was more, we weren't doing it to, pick up girls and all that stuff that those guys symbolize. And so they kind of got, blacklisted. We were like, we're doing it for the aggression, the metal, all the mayhem we wanted to see. And yeah, when you're younger, that comes out and you mature and you evolve, of course. But those are important parts of this, the ladder too, that starting point and stuff. So no,
Yeah, I
it's
mean, we just didn't know any other way, and like I said, I did everything I could to see. A lot of bands didn't realize this, but I figured it out that if you can't get popular in your own town, if you can't sell out places in your own town, if you can't create your own following, why should a record company sign you? Because what are you going to do when they sign you? You have to have something of value to give, just like a relationship nowadays. Anything we do with our parents, our kids, our bosses, our families, our business, you have to give value to make a relationship, and it's a two-way street. And so that was our goal, is to show somebody that we're from Brandon, Florida. Like, they all thought it was the swamplands of Florida, and
right.
no one came from there. It was always San Francisco and LA and New York. And we had to make a stand and say, look, we're creating, and there is a viable market for metal around the whole world. But in Florida, it's going to become the metal capital of the world because of more sound recording and because of all the bands and musicians that are grabbing their guitars, and they're inspired by whatever they're inspired by. They're going to make Florida on the map. And that's why, as I was a marketing fool, man. I would send free demos out to people in the back of Pen Pal of Hit Parader magazine, just free, because I knew if one headbanger would get it, he'd tell all his buddies that he hangs with, and then they'd order one. And it just, and then you give them extra stuff, you sign it, you give extra pictures, or buttons and patches, for even a T-shirt. Man, people go nuts with that. So it would enhance other people to buy, and there was no rules in that shit. So I would send out demos. I'd get photographers. One key to our success, I think, was as soon as we started to get fan mail, I reached out to the local newspaper, Brandon News, and I said, look, local boys doing good. We're getting exposure, and we're getting fan mail. All of a sudden, yeah, we want to do that story. So
Right.
they would do the story on us, that our demo tape, we're getting mail and blah, blah, blah. And so they'd send a photographer out to one of our shows, like Ruby's Pub, the most mayhemic shit ever going down in the early '80s, right? And so the photographers, those dudes are used to going to a ribbon cutting or a check presentation or something kind of boring in the community, a charity event, which is all cool. But now they're at this Nasty Savage show, the mayhem, in their own town, and they're freaking out because they're mostly younger guys with good cameras and really talented. So me, being the marketing guy I would make their day and really make friends with these guys, so much that the next day, if we played on a Saturday night, I'd have them go open up the news place, and we'd go into the dark room, and he'd put the pictures, the from the, you put them in the water, and you develop
Yeah.
these awesome 8x10s and shit. And I would sit there with them for hours and hours, and I'd get a stack like this big of photos. And I'm like, the most awesome black and white photos and shit. So then I would be armed with that. I'd get a demo tape, a bio, and killer pictures, and I'd start sending them bags full to every media outlet I could possibly find, from Belgium to France to Germany, to South America to LA, any fanzine, magazine. And I'd just lick those stamps and send them.
Right.
And the next thing you know, about 4 months later, we get these packages back. We're on the cover because I was smart enough to provide somebody like a publisher with what they needed to produce. So they're going to go, oh, this is an easy plug in here. They sent me all this shit and the demo's really cool. Bam, bam. And that was my goal, is to be smart and take care of business. And like you said earlier, we weren't in it to pick up chicks or just to hang out and do drugs and, all that stuff, because a lot of bands get in, and a lot of guys get in bands for the wrong reasons. They want to pick up chicks, or they want to be cool, but they don't produce anything. Or the best talented, most guitarists, they can't put it together with other guys. So they're like closet musicians. They got a ton of talent, but not a business mentality. So that's the kind of stuff I was doing. So I was acquiring these lists of media source. One day, a friend of mine, Ed Aborn, he is in a band called SIREN. And they had the demo, and they were out too, along with us, in the same kind of deal. He goes, Ron, how are you getting all these media stuff? How are you getting all these magazines? I go, Ed, I send out, I work hard, man. There's no rules. He goes, dude, that's awesome. He goes, could you help me? I go, dude, I'll give you the list. And I gave him every contact I had. And you know what? Because I wanted to see if he was good enough to handle business and go score a touchdown with it.
Right.
And damn sure I started seeing SIREN and all these other fanzines.
Right.
I did that because I wasn't only about Nasty Savage. I was about this scene. And I thought the more people I could help is the more people that would help build our scene larger and larger to get more noticeability, because you're only as good in life as the people you can inspire, but also the value you can give others. And even at 18, 19 years old, I was believing in that method. And you got to help others. And because in return, it helps you. And because of that, in the past, Ed's helped us. They did this big thing, that big movie that they did, Too Old for This Shit, with Chris Jericho. And he called me, said, dude, you helped me out so much. I want you to be in this movie with us. And sure enough, I got to meet Chris Jericho and all this other stuff through Ed. And, it's just good karma to do that kind of stuff. And, back then, I would even write letters and reviews of Nasty Savage concert. I'd say, dude, I went to this concert. I couldn't get in because it was sold out. And I was underage. So I snuck in the back door, and this band, they need to get signed. Nasty Savage. Oh my God. Here's some pictures I took and signed at Sue Billings or something. And that shit would get printed. And I was
wow.
There's no rules, man. You gotta be smarter than the next guy, because we're from Florida. No one wanted to hear anything from Florida. We had to create that. We had to create that ourselves.
Yeah, you guys were marketing geniuses, because I actually, talking about Ruby's Pub, I was underage sneaking in, and I met Ben, and Ben was there at the bar, and we started talking, and I talked about Venom and stuff, and he goes, hey, I'm in a band, and he goes, Nasty Savage. Now, when I first, because I came from Michigan, and I had just moved up there, and I had already heard you guys, or like heard of you guys, because I go to the record store, I see the flyer, and you guys used to make the unique flyers with all the different like art stuff, collage of stuff.
Yeah, I used to make those.
Yeah, and so Ben goes, hey, we just recorded a new album. You want to hear something? I got some on a tape in my car. And we went out to his big blue car that they used to have. And I was like, holy shit, this is great. He goes, hey, we're playing soon here at this club. And my first experience with you guys was Ruby's Pub, and you guys killed it and destroyed that place. TVs everywhere. You were flinging people all over the place. It was a great show. And the whole thing is, I've seen shows where there's chaos, but the sound sucks. You guys combined a great sound and the aesthetics and the showmanship that a lot of bands couldn't do simultaneously. And that was at a really small, like, hole in the ground that you guys just killed it at. And from that point on, I knew you guys were going to go further, and I don't think I missed a show from that day on. It was a great experience. It was cool to go, wow, I moved to a place that there's a band like this I can actually get into. So those early years, you guys, I mean, you could tell starting out, you were hungry, and that was great to see.
Well, I mean, I gotta hand it to the guys because, like I said, I was just this singer guy who was a front man inspired by crazy shit. I always say it's a mix between pro wrestling meets Jim Morrison meets Slayer or somebody, and Alice Cooper maybe. But when I first got in this band, Fred Dregeshin, the bass player, he was like Steve Harris or somebody. He was like the brainchild of Nasty Savage, and he created this progressive sound that was deep, deep. And then we got, Ben, who's just hardcore, dedicated guitarist, ever so getting better and better and better, and just devoted his life and body and presence to it. We acquired Craig left the band, and then that's when we acquired David Austin, and we've got Curtis Beeson. So then that's when we had the whole thing to do the demo. We did that, and then we ended up getting signed to Metal Blade Records. But it's the Fred driving force, and then bringing in David Austin with his talents and his style mixed with Ben's, and Curtis to the shark of the drumming. Those guys created the music. I had nothing to do with that. I would just say, hey, man, this is what they just created this shit. And then I created the lyrics for it and started writing lyrics. And, we came together as a band. But Fred Dregeshin was just unbelievable. He was almost scary because he had these concepts of music and theory and things like that we didn't really know about, but Fred was a forward thinking guy. And that's really how we created that unique sound. So they held down the sound when we played live. I just came in and did the flare shit and did my crazy shit, but that was all I knew to do. I figured if I'm going to get on stage, man, I'm going to do crazy shit. I want to incite people. I want them to remember who we were. I want them to anticipate the next one. And getting back to getting signed to Metal Blade, I was working in this place in Gibsonton called AFAB. It was I was making lead line drywall, lead line doors for hospitals and stuff, and I was a shop foreman there. And I'd work my ass off. We were lifting heavy shit all the time, so I was in really good shape, And I'd call my mom, and I'd say, Mom, did we get any mail today? Because all the mail would come to my house in Brandon. And my mom would say, oh, you got 7 letters today. And, there's from all these different places around America. And here's some from Germany and Belgium and shit. And she goes, oh, here's one from Metal Blade Records. I go, oh, my God, open it. And it was a letter from Brian Slagle. And my mom actually read it to me saying, hey, man, Nasty Savage has created a big buzz on the industry, on the underground. We want to sign you guys. We want to put you on Metal Massacre 6, and we want to use your song Triple X off your demo tape. And then we would like to follow that up with an album of your own. And I was like, oh, my God, man, it really worked. Within 1 year, we met that goal. But the most awesome thing was my mom is the one who told me about it and read it word for word. Yeah. So, it was an accomplishment. And when you have accomplishments in business and life and your goals are met, it just inspires you to work harder. And like I said, you just had to go and we weren't in it for anything but to try to make a mark on heavy metal if that's what we were going to do. And when I got in the band, that was kind of my goal. But dude, the musicians are what brought it all together. And then going into a place like Morrisound, and Brian Slagle, he trusted us, man. Gave us a budget. He never even asked to hear a song. He just said, "I know you guys are going to do something good." And then he came down for the mix, and he was like, "Dude, this is killer." But man, to work with a guy named like Jim Morris and Morrisound Recording,
Yeah.
they just make you sound good. If you've got half your shit right, he's gonna put his mark on it. And that's what happened. But then Fred was gone after the first album. He got hurt. He lost his tendons in his arm. He couldn't play anymore. So now our brainchild is gone. So now we come up with the next album, Indulgence, and we picked up this new bass player, Dezo Bartha. And this dude was a unbelievable bass player, younger guy, had a lot of talent. So that kind of brought in another style of Nasty Savage, maybe a little bit heavier. We developed as we went along. David and Ben wrote, we just started writing a little more complex. Then all of a sudden, Dezo's out of the band after that. His dad was really wealthy people. And he said, you're out of my inheritance, or you're out of my inheritance if you don't quit the band. So he had to. I think he's a professor now at some college or something. And then we acquired Chris Morehouse for Abstract Reality. And again, we took it to another level in changing our sound a little bit more, adapting to a fifth new member. And actually, back then, I didn't even go to the auditions. We need a new bass player. Why do I need to be there? These guys know who they want to jam with. I trust them 100%. So I didn't know it, but way after that, a year or two later, we were doing a reunion benefit concert for Curtis Beeson at the Crowbar, where all these metal dudes came from all over to support this. And Glen Benton came up to me from DEICIDE and goes, "Hey, motherfucker." I go, "Hey, what's up, Glenn?" He goes, "I'm pissed off at you still." I go, "For what?" He goes, "I tried out for Nasty Savage to be the bass player, and you guys picked Chris Morehouse." I go, "Holy shit, man. Just think, Glenn." I go, "If you would have been in Nasty Savage, you might have never burned a cross in your forehead, man. It would have changed the course of heavy metal or some shit." I go, "But sorry, dude. I wasn't there. I didn't know." So that's how it was. I always trusted the guys to create this music. And even in the recording sessions, I really didn't show up until I had to do my vocals because I always felt it was so boring. I was that kind of stupid back then. I really didn't get the full effect. I'd go and hang out and I go, "Oh, I'll be back. Let me know when give me the tracks so I could listen to them, get the rhythms, give me the leads." And that way I could work on them and rather than being there the whole time. And that was a big thing I really wish I would have done more of. So then I go do my shit. And then Chris Morehouse, after the European tour in '88, with Abstract Reality, he was gone. And then unbelievably, he passed away in an accident. Rest in peace. God bless him.
Yeah.
And he was gone, but he was already out of the band. So then we acquired Richard Bateman, who's just a monster. I'm sure you know him. Legendary, just a beautiful man, a great husband, loving father. I always admired how he loved his wife, and just a great dad, and loved his dad, who was hanging with Pops, would always be there. We'd practice at his house, and just a monster player. And he added this more twisted penetration point shit, and then that's when the album was like really fucked up and weird, and people were like, they didn't even, it was like either they loved us or hated us, or they still say that was our best material ever. And we did that, and then we did Psycho with Richard. And then Richard, everybody broke up after that. So Psycho was our last album 20 years ago. But I always have to say, it was always the musicians who made that sound of Nasty Savage. I just added my fifth, my thing. But man, I attribute what Ben did, what David did, Curtis. They delivered, man, and they created this. I might have been inspirationalized them or something, but David Austin, some of the shit that I mean, we played the songs 40 years. We've played some of the same songs like The Morgue or that
Right.
David wrote and he brought to Nasty Savage. He already had that. It's just amazing how things stand the test of time that deservingly do. And you just got to respect that, man. Totally, totally, totally.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you mentioned Richard Bateman because I originally I'm like the original guitarist of Nocturnus. Like I was a younger guy. I didn't have any experience. I was in a band called Entity for a short time, and we were just kids doing stuff, you know. And Richard and Mike were like, "Let's give this guy a try." And you know, we played for about a year. I learned so much from both of those guys. Great people, and like you said, Richard, you give the shirt off his back. He's just that great of a guy. And I remember when he got the offer to try out for you guys, he's like, "Hey, I got this offer to try out for Nasty Savage. You know, what do you think?" And I'm like, me and Mike are going, "Dude, if you got an opportunity, take it. You know, we're not going to fault you for it. You know, go for it." And you know, obviously he tried out, got in, and you know, wished him luck. And from that point, you know, I went on to do my own musical stuff. Mike did Nocturnus, but did it in a different way. And you know, all three paths went different ways the way they should have. So again, it was like something that was linked, but helped make other things happen. And when I moved up north, you guys were touring with DRI. I and Richard got me into like every show I went to. I think you went to, I know you did Pittsburgh, I think Cleveland, maybe somewhere else. But yeah, you guys were, again, killing it. You had a new label, was it Rotten Records at the time when you did
Yeah.
that? And, but you could see the metal was, again, kind of changing. You know, you could tell certain styles, like the crossover stuff, was getting big. And I don't I don't know. You could tell by the response. You had the Savage fans and you had people that just didn't understand it. And one thing about Nasty Savage to me is you guys don't sound like anybody. You have your own style. When you guys come on, you can tell it's you guys. And some people can't get into that for some reason. And I always thought you guys be way bigger because of your uniqueness. And it's why when I seen you guys were doing another album, I'm like, fuck yeah. And you know, seeing that, you know, Dave Austin's not going to be on it, but he's supporting it, I go, okay, I'm looking forward to hearing this.
Well, you know, that tour with DRI, man, was 60 shows in 65 days.
Wow.
And you know, that was we've never really did that before
Right.
because the whole thing is we never had good management. You know, Curtis' dad, Adrian Beeson, was our manager, and he did some good things and then some good things he didn't, and then some things didn't happen at all. So we were kind of young and dumb. And you know, 60 shows, 65 days was a hell of a tour with DRI was killer. And getting back to Richard, you know, Richard was on that tour with us, and we had a different drummer there. Rob Proctor was the drummer from Ass Suck, a hardcore band from St. Pete. He's
Yeah.
like 6'8" or something, man. And we drove in his van the whole time, and it even had holes in the roof. And we put bubble gum in the holes because it would get rain would come in and shit. So it was a hell tour, man. But man, we were loving it. But we'd be in sometimes in the worst arguments and the worst terrible shit going down. And Richard would always be the guy to go, "It's cool, bro. It's cool." You know, just he's that kind of mellow dude.
Right.
And but that tour DRI released, and we were with Sick of It All, Nasty Savage, and then DRI.
Yeah.
The first show was in Lawrence, Kansas, in this club by this big cornfield. So we learned a lot on that tour, but DRI released this album called Crossover.
Yeah.
Or Thrash Zone, something like that. They did Crossover and then Thrash Zone.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden, their hardcore fans were like going, "Are they selling out?" They got people with long hair on their album, and they're talking about crossing over.
Right.
They were really pissed off. I mean, I remember in North Carolina, it was all the skinheads with the black jackets and the boots, and doing the high Hitler shit. They were so pissed off, they were boycotting and talking shit about DRI and really causing problems in their set. Anybody who'd go out on the floor, they'd go out and beat them up. It was really terrible stuff, let alone if you were a long hair guy and went out there.
Right.
So we were in different cities. It's the first time I ever smelled tear gas. Sacramento, California. A riot kind of broke out over that shit, and it was in the alley in the back of the building. It went outside, and there was a fighting going on out there. A lot of crazy shit was going on through that tour, but DRI is stronger, and they just kept pushing through, and they were crossing over, so they were getting new crowd. For us, we were getting turned on to, sick of it all is straight edge hardcore. That means they don't drink, they don't party. They're hardcore. Their fans are the same way. Nasty Savage is metal, and then DRI is hardcore punk, but crossing over. So it was a great mix, and we were different, but we got great respect from people because of our work ethic. They saw that these guys are going out there and giving it 100%, and their music is wild or whatever. But I think if you work hard, most people are going to dig it and appreciate it and respect it. And if the other bands respect you, it brings a scene all together. So it was really great for us. We reached a lot of people on that tour. And one particular show is in Poughkeepsie, New York, where right from the get-go, these hardcore dudes are right up front shooting birds and go, "Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you." And, I was like, it kind of pissed me off. I was like, really? I go, okay, man. I said, it's a free country, freedom of speech. You can say whatever you want. Fuck face. I said, why don't you come on up SIREN stage and say that I will kick your fucking ass. I'll kick every one of your asses. Come on. And not one of them came on stage. So in a way, I kind of, and then they keep doing it. Fuck you. So if anybody went out there and thrashed, they'd send another guy out there, and then they'd start fighting and beating them up. It was very frustrating, but I let it get to my head. So I'd be sitting there, and I'd just jump up in the air, come down on my chest, right on the floor, boom, and get up and go, come on, motherfucker. It got totally sideways on that shit. We did the whole set. And afterwards, people were going, man, you're so prolific. How you even hardcore chicks were saying that, dude, you're badass, man. They were afraid of you, that kind of shit. So, but we sold more merchandise in that show than any other show on the tour. So go figure. But, so it's always the trials and tribulations, and each town you roll into was something different. And you learn a lot, man, hanging with the guys, and, because that's all you have is your guys, man. And you always want to make it home safe. You always want to get back home and not say I did something stupid, and which I always did something stupid on stage anyhow. But Spike and those guys from DRI were just awesome.
You have something that a lot of bands can't say. You guys opened for Slayer back in the day, didn't you, in New York or something?
Yeah, L'Amour's, yeah.
How was that experience? I mean, nowadays, if you open for Slayer, you're a target. You know what I mean? How was that?
Yeah, it was right after the first album and the demo tape and all that. And there's two stories around that whole gig. That we go into L'Amour in Brooklyn, and we had a couple other shows on that tour. We played at CBGB's, which is awesome, with Whiplash and Hallows Eve.
Oh, nice.
And it was Georgia Boys, Hallows Eve, and Nasty Savage from Florida roll into L'Amour. And right when we walk in, Slayer's doing a sound check. And we're like, oh my God, this is like so heavy. Like, we're like, holy shit. And I was friends with Wendy O Williams from the Plasmatics.
Yeah.
And she was a big inspiration of mine. And we were pen pals. And she helped promote Nasty Savage on national TV on some metal show that used to be on. So she said, hey, man, I'm going to come see you at when you play New York. And so I get to CBGB's, and the owner, Millie, says, are you Ron? And I said, yes, sir. She said, I've got a telegram for you. And it was a telegram from Wendy O Williams saying, hey, sorry, I can't make it tonight. I'm with Lemmy Motorhead in LA. I'll see you tomorrow night at Lemoore. I go, oh, cool. So I get this telegram from Wendy O Williams. I'm like, cool. We play in CBGB's. I don't even take one photograph, not one picture or anything. It was just flying in front of me so fast. I didn't even take pictures of CBGB's, we're in CBGB's. We go to Lemoore, we play, and it went over really good. I mean, I heard a live tape from there a couple of years back, and, I think we were so nervous, whatever, but I listened to what I say to the crowd, and, as you grow and get older, and get more experience, you learn how to work a crowd more. And I'm listening. I'm like, dude, you have the crowd in your hand and you're not saying anything to them. Are you scared, or what the hell are you doing, Ron? I'm talking to myself now. So anyway, you just learn. You take these opportunities, because before that, we played that World War III festival in Montreal with Voivod, Destruction, Possessed, and Celtic Frost. I mean, that was unbelievable there, and we kicked ass on that one too, man. We started the whole show off. But so Billy Milano was at this show in Lemoore, right? And I smashed a TV set and everything there. About a month later, well, first let me finish the story on Lemoore. Okay. So after I do the TV there, smash the TV, we're done with our set. I'm all bloody and dirty and glass shards and stuff. We didn't have a shower in our dressing room. So I go in the Slayer's dressing room. I go, hey, man, think I could take a shower in here? And they look at me and go, hell no. You ain't taking a shower in you ain't taking a shower in our dressing room. We're Slayer. I'm like, we're from California. we're the shit. I'm like, all right, I got you. No worries. So they go on stage. What do? I go in their dressing room, take a shower. And then, so they're playing. I take a shower. Wendy O Williams comes in their dressing room, and me and her are in there, and we're just hanging out. I'm still in like a towel, I think. And we're in there so long that Slayer's done with their set. They come in their dressing room. Me and Wendy are hanging out in their dressing room, and they're like, whoa, Wendy O Williams, man, we love you. And she looks at him and goes, well, I'm here for Nasty Ronnie. Come on, Ron. And we walk out of their dressing room and go back into ours. So that was a cool thing.
Yeah.
And Wendy was just a doll. She's so inspirational, such a force, and for women's movement, but for metal and for being over the top. She was definitely one of my inspirations. Yeah. But anyway, so Billy Milano happened to be there, and I didn't know he was there. I get the next issue of Metal Forces magazine from England. It was a big metal magazine back then. It was one of the largest one before Kerrang magazine. It was England's biggest. And they did a big feature with me on it called 9 to 5 Nasty or some shit. The next month they interviewed Billy Milano, and he says, they asked him about something about, forget what they asked him, but it came up to me, and he goes, oh yeah, that Nasty Ronnie guy, he's fake as shit. He goes, I saw them in Lemoore, and he smashed a fake TV. He goes, I could kick his ass in 10 seconds. So of course, Metal Forces sends me that thing. Goes, look what Billy said. Look what Billy said, because they're trying to stir the pot. Right. And they go, Nasty Ronnie, what would you like to say back to him? And I said, well, if I ever meet him, I'll have my stopwatch. So because he said 10 seconds. So we do another little tour in New York, and we're playing somewhere in New Jersey, and I'm on stage, and I see Billy Milano in the crowd. And I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, damn, as soon as we were done, I started bird dogging, trying to find him in the crowd, find him. I'm looking, I'm searching him out. And
Right.
all of a sudden I see him going into the bathroom. I'm like, all right, this is my chance. So I go into the bathroom like a cat, and I see him in there taking a piss against the wall, like you do. You go there, it's his urinal. So I walk up behind him, I put my hand behind his neck and head, and I push his head against the wall. And he's like, what the fuck? I go, hey, Billy, it's Nasty Ronnie. And I pushed him back, and I backed up about 10 feet. I go, and I brought my stopwatch. He goes, oh, he's zipping up his pants and he's going, hey, man. He goes, I was having a really bad time then. My dad died, and man, I didn't really mean that. I'm sorry, bro. It's like, I didn't really mean it. And I go, well, I'm here, man. If you want to really talk shit, let's do this. And Richard was in there at the time, and so was the guy from Nuclear Assault, Dan Beeler. So they witnessed this shit. I had witnesses.
Oh.
So we just became friends and didn't fight. And I was glad I didn't have to fight because he's a big bowling ball looking dude. But I was ready to have my honor, to show my honor that I wasn't backing down from something, because that's when you're young, you do shit like that.
Right.
And we became friends and took some pictures in there. But Richard would tell that story. It was like also because I never had to tell. I said, Richard, tell that story. He goes, oh, dude, you wouldn't believe it. So those are two cool things about opening for Slayer. And later on, I became friends with Tom Araya, and they played Tampa. And actually, Ben was in the band Gardy Lou. No, I think it was Gardy Lou got to open up for them, or no, what was the other band? Lowbrow. It was when Ben and those guys were in Lowbrow. They were opening up for Slayer. So I went to the show, and Vandekar was the guy who did our album covers and stuff. He's a warlock in Quail Hollow. And I had this statue, like the goat of Mendes, God, half goat and half devil. And it was like 2 feet tall. And I presented everyone in Slayer a different gift. And Tom Araya gave him that goat of Mendes. I forget what I gave the other guys, but they're all something really neat. And then it was cool. They gave me backstage pass, hung out, and Tom was really nice. So then later on, we ended up playing in California at the country club with DRI. It was a sick show for sure. And Tom Araya was there with his brother, and they came backstage, and they said, dude, this is the guy who gave you that statue that's on your mantle. So Tom actually put it in the house and really regarded that as a prized possession, I guess. But those are, the playing with Slayer, getting back to your question, it was just something that was thrown at us, and we did it. And, we didn't know any better just to go do it and absorb it and try to feed off of that. And, it was just a part of our history, I guess.
Well, you segued into something I was going to ask, because the Billy Milano thing, I had heard a couple different things. I heard that you guys were friends at one point and purposely tried to stir the pot up, kind of like the wrestling thing in the magazines, and talk a little bit of shit about each other just to get that attention. Was that true, or?
Not at all, man. I didn't even know the dude. And when he said that, I was like, dude, what is this guy talking about? Why would he attack me? I know he's a badass dude, but sorry. I know he's a badass dude or something, but there was definitely, I never knew the guy at all. I knew he's from New York. I'm originally from New York, and I was always the guy that would fight at the drop of a hat, and always pretty much never would lose a fight. Right. So I was like, hell, let's go. I'm going to defend my honor with this motherfucker talking shit. And that's why it was no joke. It was nothing fake. It was definitely real.
Oh, right on. Yeah.
But I'm happy that we're friends now, and we never really fought. Who knows what would have happened, but it was tight and right in that bathroom. I mean, right. It was like a place for a death match or some shit. Right. I saw myself pulling the sink out the wall and beating him with it, and using everything in my arsenal to fucking leave them laying in a pool of blood. But
Right.
we didn't have to go there, you know?
So when you like was a Metal Massacre, I think it was 6 you guys were on, right? With the
Yeah.
XXX. Now you had, I believe, Possessed, Dark Angel,
Hyrax
How's
was on there.
yeah, How's Eve. You were with some big players on that album, and you did 3 releases on Metal Blade, correct?
Yeah.
So why did you end up leaving? Did you just get a better deal or just not see eye to eye?
It was going back to that bad management bullshit, man. I mean, Metal Blade wanted to sign us for like 7 records. And
Wow.
our manager thought, oh, you're not going to sign my boys for 7 records. You're going to sign them for 1 record, and then we're going to renegotiate. Now, is that the reason why they didn't put a lot of money into us and put us on the road with other bands and really market us?
Yeah.
Probably. Like I said, we were just young and dumb. And he was thinking he was more like Colonel Parker or somebody like with Elvis. and, and I think that was a big part of our downfall
Mhm.
because, you know, if I'm a record company and I'm not going to put a lot of money into somebody, and who are we to think, oh, we're going to go big time with somebody else? We needed to work hard and grind to earn that growth,
Yeah.
and to put the cart before the horse wasn't a smart thing, and I think that's what led to our downfall because it just got worse and worse, and by the time Abstract Reality came out and Metal Blade had other bands and Flourishing and Combat Records and Bonsai and all these associations and Roadrunner people. You know,
Mhm.
why would they need to deal with somebody who's a pain in their ass from
Right.
Florida? You know, like, fuck, who cares? And they just, I guess, we just, it's hard to remember exactly, but it just fell apart. And then that's when Spike, who was part of Rotten Records, said, "Dude, we'll sign you. We want Nasty Savage. We want to try to make money off you." With this other guy, Ron Peterson, who
Mhm.
really owned the record company, and they didn't do anything either. They put us on tour and stuff like that. I mean, nothing against DRI or Spike because he was first class every way possible. The record company didn't do much for us, and by then we were all getting tired of being tired, going on tour and not coming back with a lot of money, not having merchandise deals. And hell, on that tour, I would, at the end of the night, I'd say, "Hey, by the way, we're looking for a place to stay tonight. If anybody's got a place, you know,"
Right.
we'd stay with our fans, man. We had some of the greatest times with our fans because one night it would be a cold slab room in LA, South Central LA on the floor. And the next night we'd be in Texas or something. They'd say, "Well, my daddy's in the oil business and he's out of
Right.
town in Indonesia, and you could stay at our." We'd go in this giant estate, you know, like multi-million-dollar homes, and so it was like either way, we were with people who loved us the most. And
Right.
when you go back to those towns, you can always look up those people again, and they're always ready for you, and it's really good. And we had the best time with our fans, man. But that's how bad it was as far as, I mean, why not be smart rather than spend money? You want to take some home, but
Yeah.
everything just started going downhill and everything was like crumbling before our eyes. And, you know, thinking we're going to be rock stars and famous just kind of faded away.
Right. Well, after Penetration Point, you released was a Wage of Mayhem on Crooked Records in what 2002?
Yeah. Yeah.
What
We did.
was the EP?
Yeah. Yeah. Probably that. And then we followed it up with the album Psycho Psycho.
Psycho.
And anyway, what were you going to say about that?
No, did you guys do that? Because I can't remember. I remember you would periodically take breaks from the band. Was that like the little break that you had, then came back with that EP?
A great question because we were done. We were really done. And
Uh,
this guy from Cook Records was really a fanboy of Nasty Savage, a big time fan that had a lot of money. And
mhm.
he said, "Oh, I'll do it. We'll do a Nasty Savage album." That dude gave us like $40,000
Oh,
to split between us. to do an album, and then he paid for all the production was another 10 or 12,000, 15, 14 grand. So, and then I said, well, if we're going to do an album, why don't we do a teaser thing? Like, we'll call it Wage of Mayhem. We'll do 2 new songs. Sardonic Mosaic was one, and Wage of Mayhem. And then we'll release the demo with that again. We'll put it on disc, on a CD. And he said, oh, that'd be a great idea. So we did that. And then this was after Ben and them already did Lowbrow and Gardy Lou. Yeah. And then we all came back together again. David Austin was living in Tennessee. So we didn't practice together one time. We all went into the studio and recorded that album, Psycho Psycho.
Okay.
The Wage of Mayhem was the same way. And that has a terrible production, The Wage of Mayhem. I wish we could redo that. But that's the only reason we did that album, because someone wanted to pay us enough to get off our ass to do it.
Okay.
And so that's what we did. And it brought us all together again, Curtis. So the solid band one more time with Richard. And we recorded, I think it was one of our best albums, Psycho Psycho, you know?
Yeah.
And we did it in a different way, where we used to just practice, go in the studio and do it. And this time we just did our own thing separately, went into the studio. I never sang one note until I got into the studio with that shit. And that's pretty much how that happened. And then all of a sudden, Crooked Dave just disappeared, because I was like, let's get that gravy train going again, man.
Right.
You know, he just disappeared. I don't know what happened to him.
Did another label end up putting out Psycho Psycho later on?
Well, it was me and David Austin started jamming again, and that's when we got Pete and Jim and Richard at the time, and we started playing a few live shows again. It was later on. It was like only the last 5 or 6 years. So this Italian label said, "Hey man, we'd love to re-release something of Nasty Savage on a limited basis. Can we do this?" So we just gave them the rights to re-release it, very limited, like only like 100. I think maybe it might have been 500 to 1,000 copies, and that it did get re-released on vinyl because it never was.
Okay.
So that's kind of a collector's item.
Well, you sent me like some videos of you guys in the studio hearing some of the stuff, and sounded great. Your voice sounds great. Music sounds great. It sounds like it would be a Nasty Savage, you know, on a Nasty Savage album. See, new album's going to be called Jeopardy Room, and that is out October 4th, 2024 on FHM Records. I mean, how do you feel after 20 years of your last recording, coming right back in the studio and going to Morrisound kind of right when you began?
Man, you want to say, oh, it's a dream come true. It's amazing. It's crazy. You know, there was a hell of a lot of pressure. And you know, how to set it up is, you know, David Austin got back with me. Ben is not with us. Curtis isn't with us. We got Jim Coker and, you know, and Pete Sykes is a killer dude, just a hardcore guitarist, great worker, serious guy, serious business, taking care of business kind of person. And Richard, and we were playing gigs probably for like 4 or 5 years. We were playing gigs and festivals, and we were traveling. We played in Mexico City 2 years ago. And after that, David Austin quit. He's like, dude, I'm done, because I still love everybody, but I'm just done with this whole fucking heavy metal band bullshit. I'm like, okay. I said, we're in the middle of, before that, we actually recorded some tracks, some studio, sounded like shit. We never even got to the leads. We just did rhythms and drums, and I had lyrics and stuff. And then we just never followed through. And the whole thing was, Ron will never follow through on anything. It's never going to do another album. It's just too much work, because, you know, we'd have to get a demo, produce it with our own money, and then try to shop it in a world where records aren't really happening anymore, and record companies are really tight, and the business of the business is just fucked up. So David just said, "Fuck it, man, I'm done," and I'm like, "All right." But I'm not. I said this. He thought it was going to be the end of Nasty Savage. I said, dude. I said, there's another chapter here, brother. I said, Pete and Richard at the time. Then Richard was gone. He was out of the band. He was done, and then he had that terrible accident and passed away. God bless Richard. You know, rest in peace. And he was gone. What a great loss to the whole metal industry, because he was such a talented, but other than that, a great human being. So we acquired Scotty Carino, who played with Death and several other bands, Fester, a great musician. He was playing these gigs with us. So we're talking about doing an album and all this, and I really wanted to follow through with this. So Frank from Headbanger Records, FHM, he's from Germany, friends with the guys in Siren because he released their music and did a great job with that. And he has a house in Port Charlotte or Cape Coral, and he rides Harleys. So he would come in town. He's a big Nasty Savage fan. And for years he'd come, and then I'd take him riding with my Harley and his, and we'd go out by the phosphate mines, and I'd take him the back roads of Florida that he never would see, and we'd have a great time together. So last year he came again, and this is the point where David's gone. You know, we just acquired David Orman. I asked Pete, I said, Pete, who do you have, brother? And it's David Orman, used to play in Contorted with those guys back in the day. He goes, this guy can play like Al Di Meola, man. He's killer. He's fucking shredder. I'm like, dude, that's awesome. And this was only like within a month after Dave left. One day, Dave Austin calls me and goes, so how's it going finding a new guitarist? I said, dude, we already have one. The dude's a shredder. He goes, really? He goes, oh, shit, really? I go, hell yeah. So it was game on. We had to play a show that Dave had to come to, and we met that deadline. He learned all of our songs. He was committed. So I was like, that's cool. He lives in Alabama, though. He's on his way here today, actually, because we're going to San Antonio next week. But so Frank is back in town again from the record company, and we're going to go riding. And I go, well, why don't you just come to my house? We'll spend the night. We'll get up in the morning and go. So in the morning, I make this big ass killer breakfast, like 10-course breakfast, fucking orange juice, coffee, water, and eggs, bacon, sausage, just toast, the killerest breakfast in the world. And I'm talking to him, I go, Frank, we just need to do a fucking Nasty Savage album. He goes, boo, that sounds good, man. I like that idea. I said, okay. So we go off and ride, and we're back way off at 17 over there by Fort Pierce, somewhere down there, 200, 300 miles away from home. We're sitting at a Beef O'Brady's, and I said, now I'm gonna make this shit happen right now, Ron. So I'm talking to him, I said, look, let's do a record. What kind of budget, this and that? I said, let's do this. And I said, I've got an idea. I think I could get, if we do this, I want to do Witches Sabbath from our demo tape. I want to get Obituary to be part of this. John and Donald Tardy from our history, what they've done for us over the years. I'm going to put those guys on it. Matter of fact, listen to this song. Listen to this from Dave Orman. And he just happened to have something that he wrote that I had some, and I let him hear it. He goes, wow. He goes, but will it be old school Nasty Savage? I said, dude, just trust me. It's going to be old school. It'll be whatever we make. It is going to be badass. So he trusted us. He said, okay, let's do it. And he gave us a budget. And I said, it's got to be done at Morris Sound. So I was able to tell the guys, we're doing a record. We're recording at Morris Sound. Start writing. We have a deadline. We have a timeline. We have to have this thing done to be released at Keep It True Fest. They're celebrating 40 years of Nasty Savage at Keep It True in Germany in October. So we're on a timeline. We're way past our timeline getting everything into the studio because of booking the studio. We're about a month and a half to 2 months behind, but we did it all, got in the studio, recorded the whole thing in 8 days. And that's
Oh,
vocals. I mean, but my vocals I did in a day and a half. I mean,
wow.
unbelievable. The guys all took care of their parts, and that's mastering and mixing all in like 8 days. So we were under the gun, but I think because of that, we've got a really good product in there. But going back to Morrisound, this is their third studio location. I've recorded in every one of their recording studios that they've had because we recorded in their original one when it was on Florida Avenue, then 50th Street, and then that's the one Siberian Orchestra bought,
Right.
John Oliva, and now their new location over by uh it's right by where the Harbor Club was, Sulphur Springs. Anyway, so I recorded there. But to go in there and work with Jim Morris and watch his work ethic, he knew that we had just a certain budget. He knew that he took on this project. He knew that he had to get this shit done or he'd be going backwards.
Right.
And his work ethic to push us through was just unbelievable. And that's where I noticed, damn, why didn't I go into the studio back in the day? Because I cherished every moment with him in the studio, watching him work, watching him develop the stuff we were giving him, watching him make it sound the best it could be, because he would go that extra mile and go, I got an idea for that. I told my guys, if he says he's got an idea, just fucking go with it because it's going to be a great idea. He goes, oh, I'll throw some monkey dust on that later. It'll be fine. Just shit like that. And I just cherish those moments, man. And I watched every moment. I filmed behind the scenes, the whole 9 yards, working with Obituary to get their tracks in time. Donald Tardy came over with a hard drive of his drum tracks the day we were doing rhythm tracks, and just in perfect timing to plug it in where the guys could do rhythm tracks over his drum tracks for Witches Sabbath. And they were balancing between their big tours they were doing. They just did the Armand. They were just getting ready to go on that tour, and they delivered it just in time. And then, then John delivered his vocals for us in time as well. Just perfect professionalism on their part. We plugged that in. We had to do that. But what we came out with was, I think, an unbelievable album. And it's just so exciting because I had so much anxiety. Everything was rush, fast. Go, go, go. Ron, you're up. You're tomorrow. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm just going to get up out of bed. I'm going to go in the studio. I'm going to do lyrics and vocals that I haven't done in 20 years on an album. I'm going to go in the recording, put the headset on, and I'm going to do my shit.
Right.
I've been writing months and months. I was writing these words of twisted reality, of poetry and motion, or whatever, this twisted tales of chaos and life and death and love and hate and inhumanities of humanity, these poetry, just, I was going to put that all down to this crazy music that these guys created. Again, it was the musicians who created this tempo. Yeah. And I told them, I said, look, guys, I want you guys to take this shit to the next level. Don't worry about the past. Don't worry about our history. Don't worry about anything. It's in your hands. It's yours. Take it and run with this ball. And they were like, oh my God, we got a lot of shoes to fill here. But you know what? They were like, we want to be true to the past, but we also want to, and that's what they did. They were true, and I respect that so much. And at the same time, Scotty left. I didn't even tell you that. Scott left the band right in the middle of getting this record deal. So who's going to sign on the dotted line? Not Scott. So I ended up, we didn't know what to do. And we had a gig coming up too, 2 minutes to Tulsa to play. And we had to get that gig done. And we had to get a bass player. So I put something out on Facebook and I said, hey, I have this project. I didn't say Nasty Savage. I said, I've got a project. Who's the hottest bass player in town? Who should I call? I don't know anybody, you know, none of us really knew who to call. And James Murphy, a legend in the metal world, you know, has been in so many different projects, including Death. And I think he played with Morbid Angel. He played with Testament. He's in Lakeland. I just happened to run into him one day at a gas station and we connected. So he texts me and goes, call Kyle Skull. And if James Murphy's going to recommend somebody, I'm like, dude, I'm calling this mother.
Right.
So he's like the first guy I called. Bottom line, he worked out. He's learning the songs because he's going with this. He's in actually the bass player of Nocturnus now.
Right.
So he's already in Nocturnus. And then he goes, well, I'm going to Greece with oh shit, I forget the band he went. Oh shit. Some band that was playing with the guy. God, I can't remember. Anyway, he was going to Greece with this guy, Wade Black. He does some high vocals, sort of like Queensryche. I forget the band that they were going to Greece. So Kyle's going to Greece. He's going to come back within 2 or 3 days before we go to Tulsa for his first Nasty Savage gig. So he goes, I'll learn the songs. I'll learn the songs. He learns the live songs. Now we're throwing him all these new songs he's got to learn. So he's just jamming down. This guy's a great dude and great presence on stage. He holds his bass real high. You know, he's real tall. Fucking he was a captain in the army. So, you know, his mindset's strategic and regimented. So I had all the faith in the world in him. But anyway, we did the show. He did great. We're in the studio now. And Dave Orman's like teaching him some of the shit to play bass as we're going along when his bass thing. And he was under a lot of pressure, man, but he pulled it all off. So we got the bass, we got the drums done, the rhythms, leads. And then I had to come in and do my thing, you know, and then we mixed it. It's done. And getting back to your question, I think it's, to me, you love all you people go, what's your favorite? I go, you love all your albums, you love all your songs equally, like you would love your children equally. It's hard to say which one's favorite, but you got to love the most recent one that's out there. You got to love and be so excited about the newest offering. Right. And I'm more excited about this 20 years later, you know, than anything I've ever done, because I think it's accomplishment that we really never did that we did. And to be a, you know, if you're a performer, you love to perform. If you're a painter, you paint with a blank canvas. And that's kind of how I looked at this, as a blank canvas, writing these words of inspiration of my own. You write your stuff for myself, you know, singing songs to please myself. All at once, things seem so small. Your grief and mine must intertwine. And that was indulgence, you know, just, but that's my concept of being so excited to write and produce as a writer. And I had the chance to do this one more time. And you only think, could this be the last time? Could there be another time? And and now and then for the record company to get it. And he's like, Ron, you exceeded my expectations. You fucking blew me away. And to make him happy that we made him content with his investment and his chance that he took on us. So that's where we're at now. And then, like, I sent you those little video vignette things. I sent them out to a lot of OGs, people I've known for 40 years, just to get their tempo. And I go with some people like here and there and to let them hear it. And everybody's been so positive, almost blown away, that they can't believe that we're going to unleash this on the world. And it's like, I went to a party this guy, Andy and Brandon had, and Terry Butler was there. Greg Gall was there, guys who were in 6 Feet Under, and Terry Butler's a legend and Obituary and Left to Die and all, Inhumane, all the stuff he does. And then John Tardy was there, and he'd never heard it. Played the whole fucking thing, man. Those dudes did not move. They just sat there and fucking didn't say a word. They listened to every song for 45 minutes or something. And, you know, they were like, dude, this is fucking badass. Wow. So it's an exciting time for us and for me, of course. But I'm really excited for the guys, because these are musicians who've been in the game but never really broke out with anything substantial. And they get with Nasty Savage, and all of a sudden they get Dean sponsorship. They get two freaking guitars. They get a bass, and it's all because of the association. I say because of Nasty Savage, but
Right.
without them, there wouldn't be a Nasty Savage. So symbiotically, we all came together and made this thing happen. I wrote a song called Blood Syndicate that's kind of about, 5 into 1, whatever it takes. It's sort of that, but it's twisted with other meanings as well. Sort of like I write like Pulp Fiction. One song could mean 3 different things, or even more, or it could mean nothing. It's just
Right.
thought process. So I'm more excited for anything because they believed in me. I believed in them. They had a chance to create some songs, and now it's all done. We're going to go to Germany and release this thing, and it's just an incredible time. I'm 62. I'm going to be 63, and it's just a crazy time for us.
Yeah.
Like,
One thing I noticed on the album too, like Psycho Psycho didn't have the typical Nasty Savage cover, but the Jeopardy Room has that Vandekar feel to it. Now, people don't know Vandekar, like you mentioned, he was this warlock. He lived behind these gates. If you went up to his house, I think that statue you guys took that picture at used to be in the front where you could see it. And
no, it's on his roof of his house. That was a dome that he made, that
okay,
gargoyle.
because he had all kinds of wild artwork and stuff. And how'd you pull that off? Since he's passed on, hasn't he?
Great question, brother. And that's what going back to my marketing and thinking, what am I going to do to make this a special record? We're just going to throw it out and say Nasty Savage, and are we going to do some AI artwork with some flames and a demon or some shit like everybody else is doing? And I even had those renderings from an artist, and even one of my guys said that just looks like everybody else's shit. I go, you're fucking right, man. So I'm sitting in the studio, and I'm going, man, I need to reach out to Vandekar. I know he's been dead for 30 something years. So I Googled and I got a link and I sent a message, and the guy texts me back. He goes, yeah. He goes, I know who you are. He goes, we still have your record here. He goes, I'm Vandekar's grandson. He goes, I live here at the house. He goes, yeah, fuck. He goes, we got a few Vandekars laying around, but not many. He goes, but I'm an artist too. You could look at my artwork. So I'm like, yeah, I need to do that. And I was with Dave Orman at the time. He goes, let's go, man. Let's go tomorrow, because he stays at my house. So I go, good idea. So we go out there. As soon as I get out of the van, they greet us at the gate. I start taking pictures of all these statues, flashback of the past. I used to go to Vandekar's all the time, and I'd always bring him a little bit of whiskey or some donuts, and then he'd trade me out and give me gifts. And that's how I gave that thing to Tom Araya. That was something that Vandekar gave me, that Go to Mendes guy. And I collect that shit. So I went there, and of course we got into the house. They showed us everything, and there was that one picture there, and I'm like, there are only like 2 or 3. And I go, dude, that's like the same sequence of Indulgence. You know how a painter will paint several pictures of the same kind of theme, but a little different. Then he'll move on to something else. I'm a big art guy. So I said, dude, I think this will work. I took pictures of it. He goes, you could use whatever you want, man. So that was a big step for me, because as soon as people saw that, right away they go, oh, it's like the old Vandekar. It's like old school. Yeah. So it was something I had to get, and I just on an impulse came up with that idea. And it served a purpose of people associating Nasty Savage old school with what we're doing today. Another part of that was getting Obituary involved, because that's a part of our past relationships. They came to my house on bicycles. They put us in that video, 10,000 Ways to Die. That I don't know if you ever saw that, but it's got over 5 or 6 million views. They helped give Nasty Savage life again. They total respect. Total respect. They put out a book. The book has a whole chapter about Nasty Savage, their inspiration. So it was a no-brainer for me to go, I need to do whatever it takes to get these guys
Right.
involved in this record because I respect them so much. And I hope they still have that respect. So that was number 2. Vandekar, Obituary. Morrisound Recording was another one. Take it to where it all began. Take it to the master, Jim Morris, because he's the only guy that can save us. If we would have went to any other studio, bro, it would not sound like this record does. And the first thing people hear, the first thing they say is the production is fucking unbelievable.
Right.
That's because of Jim Morris. Bottom line, if we would have went anywhere else, that guy never would have said, hey, I got an idea. Pull this out. No, we got to do that over. You know, he made us sound great. The fourth thing was keeping my relationship with Fred Dragashin. I wanted him to be a part of this, the original brainchild, like we spoke about earlier.
Right.
I wanted to get Fred Dragashin involved. I had him write the intro, Invocations. It was going to be a whole song. He was going to write Jeopardy Room. But timing didn't work. He lives in Turkey. He didn't have a guitar, and we were too busy and got done. And he sent us the song later. Sent us the song Jeopardy Room too late. The guys are like, we don't need that. We don't. I go, no, you guys are wrong. We need something out of this. Listen to the piece. And they go, that's a cool part. I said, well, we're using that part and we're going to make it the intro because Fred Dragashin wrote that. And that's the bond from the beginning, the brainchild that started this fucking band. Right. And that was my other mindset is Fred Dragashin, Morrisound, Vandekar, and Obituary. 4 elements that brought it together beyond the new element that we're delivering. So It was a great question because I don't know what happened with Psycho Psycho. We were just in our own mind and we came up with some artist to create that, which is a cool thing. But I had to bring it back to the old school to get this album really noticed. I needed every bullet in my barrel I could possibly find to utilize.
Awesome. Maybe I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, it will be out October 4th this year on FHM Records. So make sure everybody pick up a copy when it comes out. Do you guys plan on doing a video for this or any of the stuff?
Yeah, there's a couple little teaser videos out right now on our page. Nasty Savage. If you go to Nasty Savage Metal Nights, there's 2 teasers for the song Aztec Elegance and Schizoid Platform. I think those might be the 2 songs I sent you as well. Yeah. Did a little teaser thing. It's only about 30 seconds or so long. But when we come back from Germany in November, we're going to be playing Swarmfest at the Mug. Yes. So that'll be our first Tampa show probably in 2 or 3 years with the new band, and the new album will be out then too. So that's going to be our next Tampa hit right there.
Well, luckily my band's playing Saturday, so I'm going to stay an extra day to see you guys for sure.
That's killer.
Yeah, because Nick told me you guys were playing. I was like, awesome. Then he asked if my band, we were trying to get a gig in Florida, and everyone's like, you should try to get on Swarmfest. And I talked to Nick, and Nick had brought my old band there. He's like, let me see where I can work. And Saturday ended up working out for us. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to be there that weekend. So I look forward to seeing you guys live for sure.
That's cool. And forgive me, but what's your band?
It's the Vincent CROWLEY band.
Oh, okay. Man, it's really cool that Nick does this because it brings so many bands together. And actually, Kyle, our bass player, is going to be playing with Nocturnus, I think, Friday, and then us on Sunday. So it's going to be a celebration, man, of a lot of things. And the guy from of Nick's band, what is his band with the guy from Corpse Grinder of Cannibal Corpse? Oh. He's in that side project with him. They're playing Sunday night.
Did they confirm them to play?
I believe so, yeah.
Was it that Passive Possession?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I'm not down with anything I'm so far out of the scene. I just don't. I'm ignorant to what's going on. I don't go to any shows. I run all kinds of different businesses myself, and I've
Right.
been doing Born to Ride, the motorcycle TV show, for 28 years, and I published Born to Ride magazine. I produced 1,340 Born to Ride TV episodes, and I just took the TV show off the air last year, so I'm just publishing the magazine, and that's getting harder and harder these days with a print magazine. So I've been so far out of the metal scene, and I want to get back into it more and more, but right now I just got to maintain all the different things
Yeah.
I'm juggling.
No, it's hard when you get older because it's like I'm the same way. I try to keep in touch, and but you got life to deal with too, and it you know we're not kids anymore. Just doing this stuff.
I'm telling you, man. Last night we actually had a date night. We went bowling with my daughter and her boyfriend, and my son and his girlfriend, and we
Right.
had two kids over, friends of ours that we took with us. It was just a fun family time, and it's really cool. But I was going to say one more quick story. Is we were playing in 2 Minutes to Tulsa, and that was a really cool festival. So after the show, I go over to our booth and hang out to try to help sell more merchandise and meet and greet. And
Mhm.
these guys come up to me and they're like, "Dude, I'm a big Savage fan from way back, and they're I'm old school, blah blah blah." And these are older guys, they look older. And
Mhm.
another guy looked older, and so I goes, "Dude, how old are you?" He goes, "Well, I'm 55." The dude look like he's a lot older than that, right?
Right.
And
Right.
the next guy I talked to, the same guy, old kind of old looking, beard, gray
Yeah.
hair. I go, "So how old are you?" He goes, "Man, I'm 56." So bottom line is I'm like the oldest guy there. I'm
Right.
62. I'm like, fuck, I'm the oldest dude in this whole fucking venue. And I'm on stage smashing TVs, getting bloody and still doing this
Right.
crazy ass shit. So it's so cool that and scary in a way that I'm like the old guy and people are bringing their kids, the second generations. It's really a wonderful thing, heavy metal. And I love how people support each other and support the bands and the hard work everybody puts into it.
Yeah.
But I
It's
tell you what, it's not easy for a new band to break out now, even with social media and all that.
uh,
I mean, if we didn't have the old school roots to come in and just kick ass and get booked and be prevalent and taken care of with the flights, hotels, and booking, it just doesn't happen to young bands. They really got to work hard. So we're blessed in that respect that we have that history, and anytime you have that history, you're able to do what we do. And these new bands, all I can tell them is work hard, work harder, and then work even harder. To gain it, because I know there's a lot of great talent here. I would love to get with someone and put together like a metal massacre. See, I want to leave a legacy behind it. I want to, like we created and started, inspired people. I would really like to highlight the newer bands that are out there right now and get with somebody. And I've reached out to Metal Blade about it. I reached out to Dan Johnson, who did Par Records,
mhm.
about creating like a, a sampler of Tampa Bay, Florida metal and put it on the map because we need the third wave coming. And
It's when you mentioned like you being 62. Would you have thought? Because I see people on tour all the time. You know, I'm 56. I know people from back in the day. I mean, so many people in their 50s and their 60s are still doing it from back in the day. I would have never thought so many people because I don't know, when I was younger, I thought I'd be dead by 30 or something. I never would have thought, in your 50s and 60s, people still be making metal. Um, but it's amazing because a lot of those people are from Florida doing that.
yeah, man, it's like to some people it's all they've ever known. They're metal, their business, and they've taken care of that business the whole time and maybe not have side jobs, full-time jobs, families. So they're just road dogs.
Mhm.
And but there's also people who balance all that out. Like my buddy Caton DePena in Hyrax, He's
Yeah,
been in this 40 years. We traded demo tapes back. He just played whacking, and
that's
he's on
awesome.
tour. And, I always looked at him as a fountain of youth, like he's got this drive and youthfulness that so many of us don't have.
Yeah.
And you just gotta be blessed and thank your lucky stars or whoever you worship or whatever to the times that we have and enjoy it. Like I said earlier, joy and sorrow today and tomorrow, what greater crime than the loss of time.
Mhm.
Make the most of whatever you do. And if you're doing it, do it 100%. Don't do it half-ass. And maybe you'll look at Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones. They're still cashing in.
That's true.
Amazing.
That's
Amazing.
well, if you don't mind, at the end of this, the first one I did was with Mike Browning, and at the end of these, I know quite a few people that are fans of Nasty Savage, so they asked me to ask you a few topics.
Okay.
One was, obviously your combination of metal and the wrestling aesthetics and showmanship. And you later, I remember back in the day, turn on TV and you'd be on there with Kevin Sullivan and, and later on the International Wrestling Federation and, stuff like that. How far did you go into the wrestling business, during and after the Nasty Savage time?
Well, it's really cool you brought that up. And on a sad note, Kevin Sullivan passed away yesterday. He was
Oh,
74,
wow,
and
I did
he
not hear
had
that.
some. Yeah, man, he had some kind of accident, and then he was in bad shape. And the Prince of Darkness has left us, man. He passed away
Wow.
yesterday, and he gave me my shot, my opened the door for me in pro wrestling, and it was just something I always loved to do. I used to watch wrestling from Championship Wrestling for Florida with my mom every Saturday night. My
Uh,
friends wouldn't come pick me up to go out and party on Saturday night till 8 o'clock when it was over because I was just inspired by that. And when I had the chance to meet him, I was backstage at actually Iron Maiden concert and Judas Priest at Lakeland Civic Center. And I had some T-shirts and demos I was going to give to the bands, but
yeah,
I saw Kevin Sullivan backstage. I said, "Oh shit, man, that's my real idol."
right.
And I met him and I said, "Dude, I want to work with you. I want to get involved in what you do. I'm in this Nasty Savage band." He told me to come to the Sportatorium and meet him in Tampa. So I go there. He made me wait till the end of the show, the last person there, and then he said, "Oh, I can't talk to you now. Come next week over to Sarasota." And I did the same thing in Sarasota. After the matches, he blew me off again. He goes, "Come to the Armory." I went there. Same thing. He blew me off again. But when you're persistent and you really want something, you keep digging, you keep grinding. And I finally met him again. I said, "Look, I'm playing a show, Ruby's Pub, Saturday night. Why don't you come see what I do? And maybe you'll realize what I have to offer." So here we are, Ruby's Pub. We're playing. The mayhem's going down.
Yeah,
And I see them walk in the door. Sir Oliver Humperdinck, Kevin
yeah,
Sullivan, Mayhaw Singh, and the Purple Haze. And they go to the back. They witnessed the mayhem. The next day he called me. He goes, "Brother," he goes, "come see me. I want to have lunch with you. Come to my apartment here in South Tampa." So sure enough, and that's how we started. But one thing he wanted, he's a smart man. One thing he asked, he goes, "I want to ask you a question, Nasty." He goes, "We're doing this big show in Daytona. We're doing a triple chance cage match with Blackjack Mulligan. It's the grand opening of the Dan Cannon Auditorium in Miami. I mean, in Daytona." He goes, "Can you bring the flash bombs that you had on stage and light them off when I go to the ring?" I go, "Yeah, I can do that." He goes, "Well, I want you to come and be a part of my entourage. Wear your Nasty Savage shit. Come to the ring with the guy with the snakes, Abudu Dean." And
yeah.
that was my opportunity. I think that was the first pyrotechnics in wrestling. And I brought them
Wow.
there. They went off. We
Yeah,
had a big party, took full advantage of it. The next thing I said is, "You need to come to Vandekars. You got to meet this guy, Prince of Darkness Vandekar." Perfect. Brought the camera crew. Here I am on the opening of Championship Wrestling from Florida with Kevin Sullivan. and he's
Right.
talking about me and Nasty Savage. And it was another one of those stepping stones that happen in your career.
Yeah.
So doing that, then I started working with local wrestling promotions, Malenko School of Wrestling. And then one day, this guy, Eddie Mansfield, came to one of my shows and said, I want to hire you. I want you to work with me at Universal Studios. We're doing wrestling at IWF Wrestling. So I went on to co-produce 200 episodes of the IWF Wrestling. And that's how I really got going and got my TV background for Born to Ride and all that stuff. So, I ran my own shows. I did all kinds of stuff. I promoted shows at the Born to Ride Saloon right here on Nebraska Avenue, and I brought in all these big time wrestlers. It was hardcore, and I just got a lot of business, the wrestling business under my belt as well.
Mm.
And I still do it from time to time if I have a show I could sell and then book the guys. But it's a lot of hard work. There's a lot of competition out there now. And I really, my dream was to work for the WWE in a creative aspect, because I really feel I could be a creative writer and really write the scripts and the drama of the wrestling episodic television, and
Right.
using the characters like chess pieces. So I always incorporated violence or wrestling and into my, cutting promos or whatever it may be. I always try to keep that going. I work with the Daughters of Darkness, Luna Vachon. They were on Triple X with me, and I brought them into the studio, and I managed them for a long time. So it was a parallel with Nasty Savage at the same time.
Yeah, it was some great stuff. I mean, not to mention Chris Jericho. I think he has side band. I think it was Blood Divisions, where he covered the morgue.
Yeah, he did the Morgan. Me and him actually sang No Sympathy on the Blood Divisions too. We re-recorded that. That was a David Austin brainchild.
Yeah.
And actually, when we did Wage of Mayhem, no, and Psycho, was it Wage of Mayhem? We re-recorded Savage Desire. Oh no, so we did Savage Desire on Psycho, I think. Anyway, Chris Jericho came into the studio and did that with us. He was a big fan of Nasty Savage back in the day. And through Ed Aborn of Siren, he called me one day and said, Chris Jericho wants to meet you. We want to go to dinner at Outback Steakhouse in Brandon. Can you be there? And I did. And it was amazing because he's such a winner in life and business, and just an unbelievable guy. And, so wrestling has touched me a lot through the years. And to lose Kevin Sullivan yesterday was just a very sad day for the wrestling world. And he was such a brilliant mind and visionary, and I think he inspired me a lot.
Yeah, that's terrible news, but well, I'm glad I actually heard that from you than from social media, someone saying some dumb shit, So
Yeah, man, it's ironic that you brought that up.
Yeah, wow. Well, speaking of that, what did you think of that whole ordeal with Fallen Angel, his ex-wife Nancy, when, she was killed by was it Chris Benoit?
Yeah, man, wrestlers have a really hard life, man. They work so hard, and people say it's fake, but that's the most real shit you ever have to deal with in the ring. Those guys go through so much pain, constant pain, constant booking and running here, running there, flights. And, it's just and a lot of wrestlers are found dead in their hotel rooms, man, because they party too much, they overdose, they push it to the limit. I don't know what happened with Benoit, but Nancy was there that day with Kevin at Vandekar's, and there's pictures of us actually on my profile or on my story. I think I have the pictures of us together, and it was just a tragic thing, man. He killed Nancy and his son. He had to be going through, and he was one of the best technical wrestlers in the world at the time and top of his game. And he lost Eddie Guerrero, which was a good friend of his. Yeah. And, he was going through some bad time, but there's no excuse. You got to write him off wrestling. He's a piece of shit. And I don't even I don't even acknowledge that dude now.
Right.
And some people said Kevin Sullivan did it because he was mad that he took his wife and all that shit. But it was just a tragic, tragic thing for
Right.
life and in the wrestling business.
Well, we have one. This will probably bring a chuckle to you because I actually watched it after someone brought it up, and I totally remember seeing it on TV. Do you remember the old Brandon Hare commercial, Celeste?
Of, of course I do.
It's mysterious. Incredible. It's bizarre. It's nasty. Ronnie, I bet you wonder what all the excitement is about. Well, let's just go find out.
The excitement is all the nasty savages having their hair done at Flair Family Hair Care inside the Brandon Mall on Highway 60.
Take it from us, Nasty Savage, and get your hair done at Flair.
Flair Family Hair Care, Brandon Boulevard inside the Brandon Mall.
Man, that was I wrote that the whole voiceover and everything, man, and it was something that we used to get our hair done at. They're friends of ours that own the hair salon in the Brandon Mall, right across from the Sitting Bull, where we
Right.
used to play. And they said, "Hey, you know, why don't you guys we're going to do a commercial. Why don't we put Nasty Savage on it?" And I said, "Oh, that'd be great, man." And I remember it because I came up with this idea where each guy gets out of the limo and says, "It's incredible. It's awesome. It's this, it's that." Then I get out there, I go, "It's nasty. Ronnie, I bet you wonder what all the excitement is about." Well, why
Right.
don't we go, well, let's just go find out. And he goes, "The excitement is all the nasty savages getting their hair done
Right.
at Flair Family Hair Care, blah, blah, blah." So that was one of the first commercials I ever put together. And then after I started Born to Ride, I did thousands of commercials. I wrote the script and had to
Right.
do all that. But again, that was just another step of what we had to do to gain notoriety, publicity, whatever. And what's funny is people that do hair and big hair salons and hair festivals or whatever, they all get together. They acknowledge that commercial as, look what these heavy metal dudes did to promote hair. And it's like in their circles, and they like had a big thing about it. It went viral, and they were all
Right.
like making fun of it and shit. It was just funny that something we created went viral to another direct market of hair care people. So it still has legs, and once in a
Right.
while I'll share it on that page I was talking about, Nasty Savage Metal Nights page. It was
Right.
just it was a cool thing, man. And anytime you have opportunities with a band to go outside the box, do it, do it, do it.
Absolutely. Well, it worked too because it's like I remember they used to have a station that played videos like all day long. That would pop up, and so many people saw it. And I remember Ben kind of ribbing him, and he was like going, "Hey man, this is great publicity." I'm like, "No shit, man. That's fucking getting you out there." So
Well, one of the greatest ones, I don't know if you're going to ask about this one, but probably the best thing that happened, our album just came out. All of a sudden, MTV started. MTV was never on the air. It
right,
started in the 80s, right?
yeah,
Everybody was watching MTV. Remember Men at Work and all those same old videos. They
right,
all those, My Angel is a Centerfold, and all those the same original, you know, videos that they'd play.
yeah,
And then they did the Headbangers Ball years later. But I used to get all my studs and leather stuff at this place at Eastlake Square Mall called Shalimar.
uh-huh,
And one day I was in there, and the guy Jay, he was a Middle Eastern guy, he goes, "Ron," he goes, "we're going to do a TV commercial, and we'd like for you to be in it." He goes, "Why don't you come and bring a girl and another member of your band, and we're going to model some stuff." I go, "Okay." So we go do the commercial, wearing all the different stuff and all that. And he goes at the end, he goes, "Oh, I want you to say something I want you to say a little tag at the end of the commercial." I go, "Okay." So I grab the samurai sword off the wall and I pull it up to my face. I go, "This is Nasty Ronnie from Nasty Savage. I get all my studs and leather at Shalimar." And that commercial played, I swear, 50 times a day on MTV in the local Hillsborough County area, wherever he was at.
Yeah.
And man, to this day, people tell me, I remember your Shalimar commercial. And that was right when we broke out. So it was
Yeah.
like divine intervention or something where it just kept playing and playing. And every time we'd play, people would say, "Oh yeah, Nasty Savage, I know them." They might not even known who the hell we are, but they saw that Shalimar commercial. So
Right.
that was a big part of it.
Right. Well, there.
That was a key to our breaking Brandon open and into Tampa Bay.
Yeah. I mean, it's just. Do you think that? Because I always remember you really have a big German following. Like, there's tons of people from Germany that to this day talk about you guys. Um, did you ever play over there?
Yeah, we toured Europe in '88, and then we went back and did Bang Your Head in '04, '05. That was when Jim Coker played with us for the first time,
Okay.
and as a drummer. And then we went back and did Keep It True, I think 2 times. This is going to be our third time Keep It True festival in Germany. So we did go there. And actually, when we played Bang Your Head that time, it was with in '04. We played with Dio. We
Wow.
played with Motorhead, Twisted Sister, um, the guys from Accept, or Udo was doing Balls to the Wall, and Crocus, Hanoi Rocks.
Mm-hmm.
I always saw the Scandinavian Hanoi Rocks, Michael Monroe. What a front man he is. But man, I was in the dressing room watching Twisted Sister put their wigs and makeup on.
Yeah.
I saw Dio and fucking Lemmy. And I didn't even take one photograph. I just was in awe. These are guys that we used to have posters on our walls, and I'm like, I'm with these legends and we're playing here too. It was incredible. And, the German fans are just unbelievable, but so are the South American fans in Brazil or Mexico. And we just played in Colombia 2 weeks ago. And, it's that universal metal thing. And I tell you what, the metal fans will be metal till the day they die. They're not going to change their spots, man. Those guys will be wearing studs and leather. And I'm talking to older guys now they were metal when they're 18 and now they're 55 and they're still hardcore. The Germans the Europeans are all very educated to bands, and it's always a pleasure to speak with them because they know history, and they're just diehard fans. And I used to go meet the bands in Lakeland Civic Center before I was ever in a band. We used to go hang out by the hotel by Lakeland Civic Center by the on 98 there. Kiss, Ozzy. We met Iron Maiden. We meet every band that would come. We'd go there and meet them. And when they gave us that extra moment,
Yeah.
and were nice to us, and it made our day. I mean, we love those bands so much more. Even if they were dicks to us, we still would like them, but we kind of hate them at the same time.
Right.
So I give my time every time to make someone's day. And, it sounds corny, but we do have fans. And if they're our fans, man, why don't you make their day? Give them something special, do something special for them. And that's always been my concept from the demo days. I have people say, I still got the letters you wrote me. And, it means something to people. And you got to make a difference in people's lives. And man, if you have that opportunity, it's such a great feeling to send someone off and they go, "That's a cool ass motherfucker. I love that dude." It's like politics.
Right.
You gotta use your political. You gotta shake hands and kiss babies, man. And if you're in this business, you can't be a dick.
Right. Absolutely. Well, Ron, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. I think a lot of people I've had chats about, with friends of mine saying I was getting this interview and they were pretty excited. And yeah, to us, you're a legend, man. You were a one of a kind. You helped start this whole snowball of metal, and we all appreciate the music. And how would do you have any plugs for Nasty Savage links or your Born to Ride you want to give right now?
Yeah, I mean, they can check out borntoride.com, or my Facebook page is Born to Ride TV Magazine. Someone wanted to email me. It's rg@borntoride.com. But Nasty Savage, I've got a page called Nasty Savage Wage of Mayhem. And then there's a group that David Austin does, and I'm an administrator as well. It's called Nasty Savage Metal Nights. And I think just last week, we had over 500 new members, man. It's crazy. I think it's from this promoter in Texas, San Antonio, that's getting all these people turned on to us. So that's really cool. But, like I said, I'd like to leave a legacy. I'd really like to get more involved with the metal scene and exposing or magnifying the great talent that's here working hard. And that, like I said, that third wave. If you're out there listening, you got some ideas, hit me up, or get with Vincent. I'm sorry, get with Vincent, and maybe we could all get together with some ideas. And because you're a forward thinking guy, man, and what you're doing, not only in a band and working hard and know the history, but with your concepts, your ideas, and your music. And doing this, and because you're carrying that flag as well, brother, and I appreciate it. And anything I could do to help you anytime, reach out. You got my number, you got my contact. But maybe we could all come together and try to really build that legacy together, because it's so important. That third wave, people, the third wave.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully I will see you at Swarm Fest in late November. Make sure check that out on Facebook, Swarm Fest from Tampa, Florida at the Brass Mug. And until next time, people, stay brutal.
Thank you, brother.
Cynical domination, sanctified, corrosive mind, struck down by hidden reveals.